Why was the Navigation Act set up? Like, why did people accept that shit? I was born listening to fucking Indian history, even though I'm not from India. Fucking listening to your bullshit, Mahatma Gandhi with his fucking salt and pepper march.
Better than your bongo bullshit, bro.
King James VI to the throne of England in 1603.
King James. So you're telling me there was another king before LeBron?
In India, what they were doing is they were actually getting rival groups to basically fight with each other.
US fucked us over. Because of the US, Britain turned their heads towards India and Australia.
When the British came to India, setting up the East India Company, what language were they speaking to the Indians?
We have to listen to this? This the British song?
Well, for context...
Is that the national anthem?
I don't think so, but it's something like that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the national anthem.
Yeah, I do not fancy it.
The British Empire
that is the national
technically
anthem.
ruled the world, but it was in fact the largest empire to exist at any point throughout history. Reaching across the globe and carrying on over multiple centuries,
Damn, they ruled Australia as well?
Empire owes its success and ability to expand so widely.
Yes.
I don't know much about history, bro. I don't know much about history. I'm just finding this shit out.
Dude, are you slow?
No, I was born listening to fucking Indian history, even though I'm not from India. Fucking listening to your bullshit, Mahatma Gandhi with his fucking salt and pepper march.
Better than your bongo bullshit, bro.
By the way, if you know Bongo Bongo, shout out to you.
Yeah. How long have you lived here?
6 years now.
You better start brushing up in your history, bro.
I'll do when I get a chance.
Britain served as a major advantage to the growing empire. Given that the nation was an island, the likelihood of being invaded or conquered was somewhat lower than a country that was surrounded on all sides by foreign powers.
That's
Although
crazy.
Britain was not completely immune to incursions, it definitely benefited geographically, both in terms of external threats and when it came to any border disputes. Britain had a pretty clear and straightforward border between itself and any other nations. While Scotland and England split the landmass that was bilaterally united with the ascension of Scotland's King James VI to the throne of England in 1603.
King James. So you're telling me there was another king before LeBron?
Nation of Great Britain by 1707, sharing their outward borders with nothing but the North Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea. This open position, with easy access for maritime expeditions, also gave Great Britain an upper hand when it came to reaching other countries and continents. Needing only to cross over foreign land when they wished to reach countries more inward on their continent, the Brits were able to sail to just about any coastal nation without much resistance. Still, oceanic adventures would not have been so effortless for the British Empire without a strong naval fleet. This is where the size and power of the Royal Navy became a center point of British success. While Great Britain did not always control the world's oceans, the reason they began to skyrocket as an unignorable maritime power by the 18th century is largely due to the fact that they invested more money in ships and guns
Goddamn,
than other
guns.
forces.
Using ship designs that we made.
They stole our whole flow.
They cheated. They didn't come up with anything creative. They're like, we're just going to copy that exact strategy.
Isn't that what Android and Apple do to each other, though?
It's plagiarism right there, right?
Yeah.
But also, technically, if you think about it, the British copied your design and made it better. Isn't that what capitalism's all about?
Oh,
I guess I should have invested in the British Empire, trading empire.
so British people.
Bro, your ancestors got demolished by them. What are you talking about? Our ancestors got demolished.
Your Bandam had to take off his clothes and be naked and keep walking just to fucking inspire people.
Probably don't invest in their particular brand of capitalism.
It's funny how they rose as a power when they themselves were fucked and conquered by neighboring nations.
How many different times? That actually is kind of funny. How many times did they change hands in like a period of a couple of centuries?
You got Rome, you got the Anglo-Saxons, you got the Nord? Is it
Oh, like Viking.
Vikings? Yeah.
And then it changed back again.
The government and citizens of the British Empire truly believed that the future of their wealth was to be found through the ocean. Recognizing the importance of overseas trade, as well as a fleet that could also defend their land if ever required, the Brits made sure to adequately fund the Royal Navy. The Empire's focus on trade additionally contributed vastly to its triumphant transcontinental growth. Intent more on gaining wealth and increasing trade than on consolidating power through conquest, the Brits were able to create a more desirable environment for others to become a part of. After the successful colonization attempts in North America and the West Indies during the 1600s, the British Empire began to establish a commercial system that allowed for exponential success within Great Britain and its overseas territories. Colonies were granted monopolies for their products in the British market, and therefore were to conduct trade via British ships. In 1651, the Navigation Act would prompt the development of a closed economy between the empire and its colonies, thus creating a system where all colonial imports were required to come from Great Britain and all colonial exports were to be sent directly to the British market by the way of British ships. During the same century,
Genius.
the British East
Genius.
India Company was established.
God damn.
Great
Call that idea again.
Asia, Southeast Asia, and
By the way,
Swear your ancestors got fucked, man. Just letting you know.
all of us. But also,
Are they your
that's
ancestor
true.
as well?
yeah. But here's the thing. This is the reason why we speak English today.
No habla inglés, por favor. Wait, quick question. Why was the Navigation Act set up? Like, why did people accept that shit?
It's because, well, you start seeing why, especially in one particular country in the North America, that you start seeing why.
Is it because of better ships or some shit?
Dude, just stay tuned. Find out.
Let's find out.
and India. Initially focused on the
Uh-oh.
spice trade, the East India Company later incorporated other goods such as silk, cotton, tea, opium, and more. Politics
Opium,
made its way
baby!
into the company later on, despite the origin being purely based on establishing more trade opportunities. Driven limitlessly by the concept of controlling a global trade market, the British Empire continued to extend its reach across the continents of Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Americas. While the process of colonization varied from territory to territory, one thing that remained consistent was the form in which these expeditions began. Unlike other empires who chose to expand through the use of military might and sovereign claims to power, the British facilitated most of their expansion through the establishment of trading posts and systems. Nonetheless, the British Empire was not a completely non-violent authority. On top of the
That's crazy.
and
Yeah.
Anglo-Spanish wars near the start of British expansion, the empire also engaged in conflict with its American colonies.
That's right. They used to own America.
This is why the Navigation Act was established, so that Britain can always remain the middleman between the colonies. So colonies can't directly ship products, for example, from the Americas to the India.
They have to be dependent on Britain.
It was very much if you're going to do it.
the route they created and the company,
No,
They just
it
didn't
was
want-
just that they wanted to own everything.
Yeah, they didn't
It-
want competition.
It was very much you're going to do it, but you're going to do it our way.
that's crazy. That's why they call the colonizers.
Mate, more like invaders, to be honest. But if you want to be nice about it, yeah, colonizers, go for it.
Conflict with its American colonies during the American Revolutionary War, later followed by the dissension in India, succeeding the decline of the Mughal Empire, and leaving the British East India Company as a prominent political power in the region. The presence of Britain in India was also notably more forceful than some of their other trade-focused enclaves, demonstrated by the expansion of the East India Company's power through the threat of violence against those who protested. The continued tensions between the British and French were no longer secluded in India either, as the 7 Years' War erupted in 1756, lasting
By the way, just wanted to say, like, in India, what they were doing is they were actually getting rival groups to basically fight with each other, and they would just, use divide and conquer method. So
And don't forget, the Mughals actually started to like fuck around with
crumble.
themselves, and then
Yeah.
that's when these guys.
That's when they were like, you know what? There's a vacuum. Let's
crazy.
come in and take over.
Yeah. Businessmen becoming politicians.
This is business.
Mm-hmm.
1963, leaving Britain as the leading power across India and the world's oceans. When the American Revolutionary War came in 1775, after the British Empire responded to the no taxation without representation movement of the Americans by sending troops to try and subdue the colonies, France and Spain chose once again to go to war with Britain, now as allies of the newly declared United States. In 1783, at the Peace of Paris, the British Empire was forced to acknowledge American independence, in turn relinquishing any control over their former colonies. Devising a new
That's why we have
strategy
USA
after
today.
such a drastic loss of territory, Great Britain now turned its attention toward the continents of Asia, Africa, and Australia, marketing what some historians...
So you're saying US fucked us over. Because of the US, Britain turned their heads towards India and Australia.
I mean, they would have done it sooner or later anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now, instead of concentrating your effort towards multiple colonies, it's diverted.
Hey, but listen, because of that, today you have your Apple device. If Britain had still control of the United States, we might not even have had that.
It would have been a potato.
Maybe.
Don't forget, Britain created railways in your country.
Mhm.
Shout out to Britain.
Why are you saying my country, brother? It's almost like...
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Oi, Bangladesh separate.
historians call the beginning of the Second British Empire. Though trade between the United States and Great Britain actually continued after the installation of independence, the empire chose to utilize the uncolonized coasts of Australia, which had been discovered by a Dutch explorer, Willem Janszoon, in 1606.
Shout out to
and
Willem.
later claimed for the British crown by James Cook in 1770.
James Cook! And by the way, this day is called Australia Day or Invasion Day, depending on the camp that you're in.
Under the name of New South Wales. Still feeding their fresh craving for expansion in South Asia, the British suddenly engaged in a series of conflicts after the Battle of Plassey, which had occurred in 1757. By 1774, the British Empire took on a chain of attacks. The Anglo-Mysore Wars were fought until 1799, followed by clashes with the Pindaris. Attacks on places like Sindh and Burma also accelerated the new consolidation efforts of the British East India Company, on top of what was referred to as the Doctrine Lapse, where the Brits forbid the ascension to the throne of any Hindu ruler if they were not the natural heir. Once the current Hindu leader either died or was removed in some way, the British would occupy his state and gain control. These acts by the British Empire, combined with other forms of forced westernization of the Hindus, led to the Sepoy
Yeah, in the Sepoy Mutiny, the Bengalis soldiers were involved, but you know what happened? They actually gotten mercenaries from Punjab to come and attack them. So they just used each other Indians, other brown people to just be like, yeah, you know what? Just fight for us.
You know what's also crazy? It's that, you know how they won't ascend the thrones unless the natural rulers aren't birthed or the citizens revolt.
Mm-hmm.
They've done many schemes on that as well. There's some dark pages that haven't been written on that as well.
That's business.
Thing happened,
And
bro.
the Sepoy Mutiny, the reason why Punjab's revolted against Kolkata was they were fearing that a Mughal leader will be established back on the throne.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another time.
1859. Tired of the current heavy-handed British rule, the Indian troops of Meru sparked a rebellion that would spread throughout the nation. Peace was finally declared in July of 1859, and the British East India Company was scrapped. Although the empire maintained a level of control under the crown until 1947. During this span of time, Great Britain set about making its presence better known in Africa as well. Although the Royal African Company had been established back in the 17th century, finding ample profit in the slave trade until its abolition in 1807. It was not until the 19th century that the Brits realized the potential benefit of forming a trade route across Africa, with its eyes...
Yeah, they took South Africa from the Dutch. But did you know, actually, after they had abolished slavery, the slave masters in South Africa, they were like, we need this labor, otherwise we're not going to make profits and stuff. So what they did is actually they got indentured laborers from the Indian subcontinent.
No.
They were meant to be indentured laborers with contracts, but actually they were pretty much like the slaves, where they gave them small quarters, they made them work long hours without any fixed end to their servitude. So yeah, that's crazy. And the descendants of those people are in South Africa to this day, and they're the brown South Africans.
It's slavery with extra steps.
Yeah, exactly.
Set on establishing outposts spanning from Egypt down to the southern half of the continent, the British Empire found itself in a race against the other growing European powers, such as Italy and Germany, which eventually led to the Berlin Conference. The conference, which occurred in 1884, was intended to create some harmony between the competing colonizers. Great Britain was ultimately awarded most of northeastern Africa and all of southern Africa, meaning that at its peak in the continent, the British Empire ruled over approximately 30% of the African population. Globally, at the height of Britain's domination, it controlled roughly 22 to 25% of the world's land surface, and by 1938, governed around 20% of the world's population. This remarkable prosperity was accomplished through a geographical advantage, supreme naval might, and the strategic focus on trade and wealth over bullish sovereign power for the sake of an emperor.
That's crazy, bro. I've got a question, right? When the British came to India, setting up the East India Company, what language were they speaking to the Indians? Were they like, excuse me, sir, we call ourselves the Great Britain and we're going to be speaking English. You better speak my language. How were they negotiating?
No, it's because trade routes were already established back then, so there will be translators and stuff.
They would have been like multicultural enough
Yeah.
that you could find, if you couldn't directly speak to someone, you would have been able to find someone who could.
They probably employed one of the Dutch traders.
So they had a slave translate, not a Google Translate.
Yeah.
Well, because you're in a multinational sort of port, when you make land, you're going to come across a bunch of people from all different kinds of places, so you'll find someone who knows.
Well, we don't actually need to watch a video on the downfall of Britain because we already know what caused the downfall.
Yeah, it was the World War II.
Yeah. World War One and World War Two.
Yeah.
What was that downfall?
Well, the two world wars.
Yeah.
Well, it took the World War, but yeah.
Why were they fighting?
What do you mean?
Why were they fighting against you?
You really need to brush up on your history.
Bro, history of fucking...
The Austrian painter, bro. Austrian painter. Mm-hmm.
History makes me barf, bro. Ain't gonna lie.
But like like some of these are quite pivotal moments.
These are very important moments in history.
If it wasn't for World War Two, Britain would have still been the
dominant force.
Like if they, what do you reckon? They'd probably be seeing their downfall about now. But
if it wasn't for World War Two, Britain would have still been ruling India.
Look, Sanjeev, if I make it short, for World War II, it was the Nazis. The Nazis were threatening to occupy Europe and do all kinds of crazy stuff, killing Jews. Man with the mustache, he took that mustache.
The man?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's off for fashion. That used to be cool back in the day. Now it's not cool anymore.
Oh, man, I wanted to do that high key.
Yeah.
I said nobody ever.
To be honest, I think the only guy who could have done it was Charlie Chaplin. He was the
Yeah.
only guy to pull it off.
That man's a legend.